Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
A young, determined Canadian, filled with pride, stood triumphant on the summit of Mount Everest. It was a dream she carried since the age of 9 when she first laid eyes on the majestic mountain during a sightseeing tour. Despite her limited experience in mountaineering, she had made her way to the pinnacle of Mount Everest. It was a dream come true, but little did she know that her dream would soon turn into a heart-wrenching tragedy. What followed was a deeply moving tale that raised critical questions about the world's highest peak. How could individuals with little to no mountaineering experience be allowed to attempt such a perilous climb? What level of responsibility should expedition leaders bear for the lives of those they guide? And what drives someone to forge ahead, even when facing seemingly insurmountable odds? Mount Everest, first conquered over 70 years ago, still remains a perilous endeavor. Not only is it dangerous, but it's also financially demanding, with expedition costs typically totaling around $100,000, covering guiding fees, equipment, and travel expenses. Despite the risks and expenses, Mount Everest has seen an increasing number of climbers, which adds another layer of complexity to the challenge. Over 300 lives have been lost on the mountain, with more than 200 bodies remaining unable to be recovered due to treacherous conditions. Yet these daunting statistics don't deter future climbers. In fact, some argue that the mountain's history of challenges and tragedies only serves to motivate more people to attempt the climb each year. Shriya Shah-Klorfine. She was born in the shadow of Mount Everest in Kathmandu, Nepal. Her dream of reaching the summit began at the age of 9 when she took a helicopter sightseeing tour over the mountain with her father. That experience left an indelible mark on her, and she knew then that one day she wanted to conquer the world's highest peak. Shriya's life took her on a journey away from Nepal, where she spent most of her childhood in India. Eventually, she traveled the world and found herself working for a cruise line where fate introduced her to her husband, Bruce Klorfine, a Canadian. They tied the knot and settled in Bruce's hometown of Toronto, Canada. Shriya pursued a variety of careers, from business and fashion buying to running her own import business. She even ventured into politics and became a candidate in the 2011 general election. Bruce fondly recalls that whatever Shriya pursued, she did so with unwavering passion and determination. If she set her sights on something, nothing could deter her. Then, one day, out of the blue, Shriya revealed her audacious goal to Bruce. She wanted to climb Mount Everest. Initially taken aback by this unexpected aspiration, Bruce tried to dissuade her. After all, it seemed like an impossible feat for someone without climbing or mountaineering experience. But no matter what he said, Shriya's determination remained unshaken. In no time, she was immersed in rigorous training for one of the most challenging adventures one can undertake. With less than a year to prepare, Shriya embarked on her training journey despite having zero climbing experience. She hiked in the rugged terrain of rural Ontario, honed her skills at a rock climbing gym, and even carried a hefty 40-pound pack up the stairs of her high-rise. Throughout this demanding training period, she didn't engage in alpine climbs and didn't possess her own climbing gear. At one point, Shriya organized fundraising events, renting climbing gear for publicity photos. She even photoshopped herself against an image of Mount Everest, creating a poster that she displayed at various events and eventually at the base camp of Mount Everest. This poster led others to believe that she was a renowned adventurer sponsored by multiple companies, giving the impression that she was well versed in mountaineering. However, the reality was quite different. Despite her lack of experience and complete novice status in alpine climbing, Shriya was unwavering in her determination to conquer Mount Everest. Her husband recognized her strong will and knew there was no stopping her. If successful, she would make history as the first South Asian woman from Canada to reach the summit and the fourth Canadian woman overall. With a fiery spirit, Shriya embarked on her Everest journey and stumbled upon an expedition company called Utmost Adventure Trekking. They welcomed her as a client, and she invested her resources into this ambitious endeavor. Her journey began with a lengthy trip to Kathmandu, where she had the chance to connect with friends and family before embarking on the arduous trek to the base of Mount Everest. This trek to the base is an adventure in its own right, spanning about 200 kilometers, approximately 124 miles, and lasting 2 weeks. It serves a crucial purpose, acclimatizing climbers to the mountain's conditions. As they ascend, the oxygen levels drop significantly, reaching only a third of what we breathe at sea level in the treacherous death zone. In this zone, the body begins to deteriorate rapidly, making every minute and cell count. Climbers face a race against time to reach the summit. Utmost Adventures took Shriya under their wing despite her inexperience. They believed in her potential and assured her that they would teach her all the mountaineering skills necessary upon her arrival at Everest. The company's owner had numerous discussions with her, addressing her steep learning curve and relative disadvantages. However, Shriya's unwavering confidence in herself convinced everyone that she had what it took to succeed. During training sessions, captured on her helmet camera, Shriya often lagged behind the others, consistently the slowest in their ascent towards Mount Everest. Her lack of speed was a concern, but unlike many others, she didn't suffer from altitude sickness, nausea, or headaches. This gave her a unique advantage. Yet, Shriya's inexperience was apparent in various aspects of mountaineering. She needed guidance even on fundamental tasks like putting on crampons, a basic skill for climbers. Crossing ice ladders with crampons also required instruction, highlighting her unfamiliarity with the terrain. Base camp in 2012 faced unusual weather patterns, delaying summit attempts until late spring. Climbing conditions became more challenging, and the number of climbers at base camp continued to grow as they awaited improved weather. Shriya wasn't the only novice climber that year. Many experienced climbers also grappled with the difficulties of Everest. Russell Bryce, a respected expedition leader with 40 years of experience, noted that while climbing the mountain is undeniably challenging, it doesn't demand intricate technical climbing skills. Becoming physically fit is crucial for an Everest climb, primarily because you must continuously place one foot in front of the other for hours on end in challenging conditions. That, coupled with unyielding determination, as demonstrated by Shriya, is the recipe for success. In 2012, Utmost Adventures had approximately 24 clients, each of whom invested around $50,000. However, that year posed unique dangers due to unusual weather patterns and conditions that triggered avalanches and serac collapses, significantly shortening the climbing season. With only a few weeks' window for ascent, climbers converged on base camp, all eagerly awaiting their chance to summit simultaneously. 2 weeks before the planned ascent, Russell Bryce, the senior guide for Utmost Adventures, made a controversial and difficult decision to cancel all expeditions, deeming it too perilous. This decision meant that those who had paid $50,000 each would not receive refunds. In a pivotal conversation, Shriya's cousin bluntly warned her not to proceed, stating that she would die and potentially endanger others. Curiously, Shriya did not share this intense conversation with her husband, with whom she maintained frequent contact before her summit attempt. Undeterred, Shriya remained resolute, refusing to back down. Consequently, the owner of Utmost Adventures assigned her 2 less experienced Sherpas as guides. Shriya embarked on her summit attempt at 7:30 p.m. on May 18th, starting from Camp 4 at 8,000 meters. The climb to the summit, which spans half a mile straight up, is a grueling 10 to 12-hour journey for the best climbers, all within the perilous death zone. Climbers take painstakingly slow steps, often requiring frequent stops for breath, covering only about 10 feet in 2 to 3 minutes. Shriya, among the slower climbers that day, encountered shocking scenes of congestion on the mountain, exemplifying the commercialization of Everest. Russell Bryce expressed his concerns about the crowded conditions, emphasizing the need for distance between climbers. Hundreds of climbers relied on a single rope line, which could snap at any moment. Rockfalls posed additional threats, potentially claiming multiple lives simultaneously. Delays while waiting in line added to the danger. On summit day, Shriya and her Sherpas climbed throughout the night. By 11:30 a.m. on May 19th, they had been climbing for 16 consecutive hours. Shriya's frequent rests created bottlenecks as climbers couldn't pass each other. As they approached the Hillary Step, a 15-meter, 50-foot, near vertical rock and ice wall, they encountered a 2-hour wait in both directions. At this point, Shriya was nearly out of oxygen, with only 20 minutes remaining. Reaching the summit after 2:30 am is considered highly perilous, as climbers must descend exhausted and in total darkness. Shriya's guides tried to persuade her to turn back on the Hillary step, recognizing her weakness and oxygen depletion. However, she staunchly refused, determined to fulfill her investment. She insisted they could return, but she would forge ahead. The company owner, who had earlier supplied her with one last oxygen bottle, observed her dwindling supply and offered it to her. With this lifeline, Shriya and her two Sherpas patiently waited their turn in line. Russell firmly believes that the owner's decision to lead Shriya at that moment was utterly unreasonable. He emphasizes that an expedition leader's primary responsibility is to ensure the safety and well-being of climbers. Then, something incredible unfolded just before 2:30 p.m. Shriya reached the summit of Mount Everest, realizing her dream. News of her achievement quickly spread to the base camp, reaching her friends and family on the other side of the world. They were elated, shocked, and incredibly proud of her. Russell notes that she must have been exhausted and cold by the time she reached the summit, yet her unwavering determination shone through. It was nothing short of amazing that she accomplished this feat in her condition. Shriya spent nearly 30 minutes savoring the moment at the summit, soaking in the breathtaking view. Like many climbers, she probably didn't want to leave, but they faced strict deadlines for descending safely, deadlines they had already surpassed. At around 3 p.m., she, along with the two Sherpas, began their descent. With just a few hours of daylight remaining, the weather was about to take a dramatic turn. Winds escalated to near hurricane force, and temperatures plummeted to a bone-chilling 40 degrees below zero. Having endured a grueling 20 hours of continuous climbing, Shriya was pushed onward physically and verbally by the Sherpas, who urged her to keep walking. However, after 7 hours of descent and a remarkable 27 hours in the death zone, Shriya found herself in dire straits. As the next wave of climbers ascended the mountain, she pleaded with them for help, fearing for her life. She implored them, "Please don't let me die, save me." The Sherpas revealed that she could no longer stand on her own without falling. It took two of them to keep her upright. She appeared almost paralyzed, utterly incapable of standing independently. By that time, her oxygen supply had likely been depleted. While an average climber's oxygen bottle would last around 4 hours, Shriya had been consuming more oxygen and had gone without for a few hours. The Sherpas reported that around 10 p.m., she ceased moving and speaking altogether. They secured her to the rope line and left her on the balcony, situated at approximately 8,400 meters, 27,600 feet. A Sherpa from another team ascending the mountain encountered her and attempted to communicate with her. He realized she was still alive, but could only make sounds. She had lost the ability to speak. Recognizing that she was fading fast, he tried to revive her but received no response. Tragically, she stopped breathing, and he captured one last image of her, her body draped with the Canadian flag, before continuing to search for others in need of assistance. For 10 days, Shriya's body remained on the mountain until a rescue team could safely bring her down. She was flown to Kathmandu, where she was cremated, and her husband Bruce conducted the funeral pyre lighting. Bruce later shared that Shriya had been searching for something on Mount Everest, believing that achieving this feat would change how she felt about herself and serve as a significant accomplishment. He expressed astonishment at her summit achievement and admired her unwavering determination. Shriya was one of 10 climbers who perished that year, contributing to one of the deadliest death tolls in Everest's history. Unfortunately, 2023 also witnessed one of the highest death counts on record, with 17 climbers succumbing to carelessness and extreme weather. The mountain has seen an influx of inexperienced climbers, resulting in overcrowding, particularly on the south side, where there are typically only 8 to 10 days of optimal summit conditions. Just as in 2012, the weather takes a turn for the worse during that time, and that narrow summit window shrinks to just a few fleeting days. Consequently, everyone on the mountain endeavors to reach the summit during this brief window, creating bottlenecks and life-threatening delays. The growing popularity of Mount Everest has attracted numerous local companies seeking to capitalize on this trend. Many of these firms offer substantially lower rates compared to their foreign counterparts. Suze Kelly, the manager of New Zealand-based adventure consultants, frequently encounters inexperienced climbers eager for an Everest adventure. Her advice to them is to return once they've gained more climbing experience. She explained that their sole aspiration is to conquer Mount Everest, so they turn to operators that don't rigorously gut their clients. Often, these climbers encounter difficulties on the mountain and fail to reach the summit. Becky Ripple, a seasoned travel professional who operates Peak Freaks, was stationed at base camp in 2012. Her team had reached a point on the mountain notorious for communication blackouts, and she hadn't heard from them in a while, signaling that something was amiss. Far above base camp, a traffic jam had developed after Shriya's tragic summit. Fortunately, Becky's team emerged unscathed, but they made the decision to discontinue Everest expeditions due to the dangerous overcrowding, the proliferation of inexperienced operators, and Nipple's failure to address these issues. Russell Bryce asserts that changing the system requires active participation from climbers themselves. He believes that sponsors and the broader public should stop supporting individuals who lack the necessary qualifications to be on Everest. Dr. Shauna Burke, an exercise physiologist who also summited Everest, notes that elite mountaineers value the entire climbing process. They appreciate the complex decision-making, challenges, and problem-solving skills required to persevere through such a demanding endeavor. Both experienced and inexperienced climbers are drawn to the adventure's elements, the cultural experience, and the close bonds formed with teammates. However, amateurs who rush into Everest often overlook a crucial key to success: rigorous mental and physical preparation. Shriya was one of the 10 climbers who tragically lost their lives on the mountain in 2012, and it is clear that congestion played a significant role in these fatalities. This raises critical questions. Should the number of climbers be limited? Should novices be denied access altogether? In a country where the average Nepali earns less than $700 per year, Mount Everest generates over $100 million. The local government may be reluctant to limit permits, fearing a loss of revenue. Even in the face of tragedies on the mountain, they still receive the money, whether climbers live or die. Paradoxically, the more deaths that occur on Everest, the greater the attraction it seems to hold for others. Russell Bryce stresses that all Everest companies must prioritize saving lives over reaching the summit. He believes that part of the issue is that companies have become too successful, leading people to believe that reaching the summit is almost automatic when they sign up with these firms. Until the government imposes limits on climbers or establishes prerequisites for climbing skills, this situation is likely to persist as the new norm. Individuals who should not be there, who disregard reason and warnings, will continue to climb until tragedy strikes. Let us know your thoughts on the case in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to like the video and subscribe for more content like this in the near future. That's all for now. See you next time.